pulled the trigger yet. So
You see the whole countdown going, and he still can't stop himself. What's going on, Pop? How you doing?
doing great. How are you?
Welcome back. I tell you what, man, we got to start live streaming these pre-production meetings. It's
Pre-production
incredible.
meetings go on Patreon only.
It could be the worst show on earth. These pre-production meetings. It's a good time, but let's get into it, man. We've got a pretty quiet week, all things considered, news-wise, but that's good. It leaves a little more room for some discussion. You all right there, Pop? You hanging in?
Doing good.
Forgot how to drink water for a second there.
Choking on
Doing
water.
okay? Yeah, it happens to the best of us. That gene didn't skip a generation, unfortunately. But yeah, pretty quiet week news wise, all things considered. But we just kind of want to get on here, chat, say what's up to the people, and talk about some of these new draft rumors. There's some uniform stuff we'll go over. But overall, Pop's got this as post free agency vibe check. I would say it's like post first wave of free agency, right? Because there is a lot of guys that are still available. We still have a lot of cap space, and there's kind of that window where you have free agency. The free agency opens, all the big deals happen, or a lot of big deals happen, and then you get a group of guys who go, let's see what happens after the draft. Maybe we didn't get the first set of offers we wanted, and maybe after the draft, if there's a team that needs a wide receiver or a running back or a defensive end, and they don't get the guy that they're hoping for in the draft, maybe I have a little more demand on the back end, or I can go somewhere where I get more playing time, etc. So we're kind of in that lull right now between the jump and all the big guys signing, and then the draft where we kind of figure out where things happen, and then there will be more signings after. But what do you think? How have your expectations changed since we've made these signings, Pop? How do you feel both after both about Adam Peters and kind of the general plan, and then how you think it's going to impact next season?
Yeah, again, I think Adam Peters did a great job considering things like in free agency, right? You're not going to get that proven vet, you know, all pro player generally, right? But what he did is he went after those ascending guys that are still, either on their second or third contracts who we think are, close to achieving their peak. And I think that was brilliant. So, generally, I feel like the defense has improved significantly. I mean, if you look at all these guys we signed on defense, they're all expected to contribute. I love the Owe pick. I love the Chanel pick. I like Kavan Chason. I think that this guy potentially between Chason and Owe, we might have found our bookends for. And I know we only signed Chason for 1 year, but nothing is to stop us from extending that at some point. And we might have found our bookends for the next few years. They're both young enough, and you see highlights from that playoff game that the Chargers and the Patriots played. You got to be pretty excited about the potential there. So, I feel really good about the fact that I guess I'd put it this way. I think we've put ourselves back in contention. There's a little more work to do, and I expect them to do more work at wide receiver and maybe running back and some other spots, maybe another defensive signing or two, bring in a center to compete. But I think we've put ourselves back in contention. That would be my statement.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it's well worded. I think just to clarify on contention, I don't think you mean Super Bowl contention. I think you mean just you're back to a competitive team, right? Like a team that every week you go out there and you feel like has a good chance to win the game.
I think I look in 2024, no one
Ooh,
expected us to be knocking on the door of the Super Bowl. So I think that when I say contention, I think once you get to the dance, anything's possible.
yeah,
And I think it's
yeah,
about getting to the dance. So yeah, I guess that's step one. I'm talking about, being in the discussion for the division, being in the competition for playoffs. But once you get there with Jaden Daniels as your quarterback, he's proven once before that's a tough out. If he's
January
right,
Jaden,
that's a
baby.
tough out. So
Yeah,
that's what I mean by it.
I agree. I think at this point with the additions that we've made, I think it's you should expect this team to be in the conversation for competing for the division. Come like you usually say, A lot of guys say like you don't really know who like September in the NFL is not really a real thing. I disagree with that strongly because after September of last year, you said Washington kind of looks like a mess. They look like they haven't figured it out yet. And everybody said, oh, September's not a real thing. Yeah, well, we won three more games for the rest of the year after September. So I would go as far to say I think that by the end of September, mid October, you should be looking at this team and going, okay, we're in, we don't have the schedule yet, so you can't talk about like wins and losses quite yet. But I think it should be like we're on pace to be in that, like, if we don't win the division, we should have a wild card locked up space. And I think when you look around the rest of the division, there's real question marks in Philly, particularly with the way Hurts ended the season last year. New York's in a complete tailspin, rebuild, trying it again with a guy that got ran out of town after doing a pretty good job for 20 years, but maybe his best years are behind him and they're buying him a day late. Dallas, I think, is feistier than we think. I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas takes the next step and wins 12 games next year, as much as I hate to say it. Think they got a lot of talent on the
They're always a
offensive side.
problem talent wise. They're always a
Yeah, I think
problem
they've
talent
got
wise.
a ton of for all the flack that Jerry gets. I mean, they managed to always have a pretty talented roster down there, and some of that is just the money and the star and the legacy, right? But I don't think anybody would be shocked if Dallas wins 11 or 12 games next year, but I think we should be right in that conversation where it's like the December football for me. What I'm going to qualify it as is that December football should be very important for Washington next year. Those are my expectations. Last year, December football was not important for us, unless you want to talk about draft position, which at this number 7 spot, as opposed to the number 4 spot that we would have been had we lost that game in Philly. Um, Things are very different. So I guess December football was pretty important for us last year, but I'm hoping December football this year will be important in ways that we care about. That's how I'm going to set my expectations.
Yeah, I think we'd all rather not be in this position to have the number 7 pick, but it's going to be exciting on draft night. Number 4 would have been a little more exciting, but it's going to be exciting on draft night to be picking that early. And yeah, I think it's interesting when you run down the division. I do think, Philly's in a constant state of turmoil for a team that's been so successful, first team to win the division back to back in how many years and, got a Super Bowl under their belt. It's crazy, but you wonder if that turmoil catches up with them at some point. Still a really talented team. Um, the Giants are the one that, sorry, cousin Robert, I don't really buy. I don't buy Jackson Dart. I'm not in fear of Harbaugh as a coach based on what I saw in Baltimore. So it's not going to be easy. We just got to take care of business on our end. There's still some hurdles to get over, and despite what I might have said about the Giants, they're never an easy out. Even though we've kind of been dominating them lately. Uh, um, so yeah, it's what I'm surprised by, quite honestly, is the optimism from my boy. Because my boy was at what, 7, 8 wins just a couple short weeks ago.
Right. So it was a couple weeks
You
ago,
must
and
be
now I'm
pretty
saying,
happy about what Adam Peters did. You were ready to run Adam out of town.
oh, I love it. I love it. But now, just to be clear, I said I think December football should be important. So I think that's a that's a window where it's talking about either you're scrapping for at the bottom end of that window is you're scrapping for a wild card, right? And at the top end of that window is you're fighting for the division and potentially fighting for a good seed in the
Yeah, I think
NFC.
that's
So I
fair.
think as long as we're operating somewhere in that space, I think mission success. And I think that's what you should expect from this team. And I think that what's going to determine that level of variance is it's going to come down to Jaden Daniels. I think they've built enough of a floor around the rest of the operation now that even if a guy like Chase Young lets us down a little bit, even if a guy like you know, even if a guy like Chanel takes a little bit to get adjusted to the system and comes on late in the season but isn't quite perfect in the beginning, like even if some of these things go left, which they will, by the way, like not all of these signings are going to play up to their absolute ceiling that we hope. That's just how it works. Um, Even if that happens, I think we've made enough of the right moves in the right places. Even if we whiff at number 7, much like we whiffed at number 29 last year, at least in terms of the impact of
I think
their
that's going
rookie
to work
year.
out.
I think it will work out long term, but in terms of their
It
impact
hurt
rookie
you in the
year,
first half of the
it hurt
season
you.
for
It
sure.
hurt you. It actively hurt you, and I would argue cost you a
Yeah,
couple games at the beginning of the
yeah,
year. Um, but as much as that was an issue, that could come up again this year at number 7. None of these guys are guaranteed, but I think if you've got a healthy Jaden for 17 games, you're looking at you should be in that window, and I think if Jaden's playing up to that should have been MVP level stature he was playing at the year prior, then in 2024, then you're talking about you could be competing for
yeah.
the division or the conference, frankly.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not a perfect roster. There are holes. There are holes in every roster and across the NFL. Every 32 teams of fans and podcasts like ours that are talking about, where they could get better or where they need help. We're not the only one. Having said that, I think that even without the draft, if they had to start the season tomorrow with this roster, I'd feel pretty good about it. I wouldn't feel
yeah,
great about it. I wouldn't be talking Super Bowl, but I'd feel pretty good about it, especially with Jaden Daniels. And the other thing that impressed me, which I don't think's been said enough, is how these guys talk about how impressed they are by the culture, by the team, by the facilities, by all those things, right? I mean, as much as we might, you know, talk about Dan Quinn in a negative fashion sometimes because it's all rah rah and culture and not enough X's and O's, which I do think he's a defensive coach. I don't think he's forgotten how to coach defense. I think the process that they've used in terms of how they bring these guys on and these guys wanting to both come here and stay here, right? Because there is a foundation that's been built the last couple of years that you can't dismiss. That is really encouraging to me, right? When you hear that over and over and over again. And I also feel like, yes, we could sit back and we could say, why did they go in a direction they did 2 years ago with offensive and defensive coordinator? But I also give them credit, especially in Adam Peters being kind of new at this, to go, look, it ain't working. And this isn't really sustainable in the long term. And this is what we want for an offense. And this is where we'd like to evolve for a defense. And it's not necessarily in a comfort zone where they've always been. Now, will it work out with 2 first-year coordinators? We'll see. But I like at least the reasoning behind what they're trying to do.
yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I think it's a good step. So I think now specifically, we talked a little bit about Jaden. So this is a hard one for me. But what are your expectations for Jaden in 2026 in David Blau's offense?
Well, I tell you, I think I told you the story, but I don't think I've said it on the pod. As we do, right? What do? We talk about sports. Dominic and I probably spent an hour on the phone breaking down each other's golf games
How the
yesterday
pod
to
was
the
how the
to the
pod
point
was
where
born.
my lovely wife had to leave the room because he just couldn't hear it anymore. So like that's what we do, right? One of the reasons we created this podcast, we would spend hours on the phone breaking down the Redskins
We
slash
were
football team
the
slash
only
Commanders, and I kept
we
telling him
were
we should do this on a podcast.
we were the only two people still debating RG3 versus Kirk Cousins in 2018. We were
so
6, 7 years out still debating that.
so I guess I kind of had a cold sweat a couple of weeks ago, thinking, man, what if this is one of those cases in Jaden's rookie year where it was the perfect offense, with Cliff Kingsbury. It was college style, was what he was comfortable with. Hurry up, shotgun based, all that stuff. And it was just the perfect storm. And is he really going to be able to adjust and adapt to something different? This is going to be, almost the first time we're asking him to really run a pro style offense, right? Under center a lot more, less hurry up. And I just got a little bit of like fear. Having said that, I don't know that I really believe it. I do think that, just Jane Daniels is the anti RG3 in the sense of his doing all the right things, his dedication to learning, watching film, doing the virtual reality stuff. I don't think he's going to have any problem whatsoever picking this up. And I think it's going to play to his strengths. So I'm excited about it. Would be what I would say, and I'm confident in Jaden. There's definitely some unknown to it and uncertainty around it because, I do think we've talked about it before. Calling offenses on a game day, that's the 12th player on the field. That offensive coordinator, there's one thing to be able to sort of design an offense and scheme something. There's another to making sure that you're in rhythm with the team and the quarterback and calling plays at the right moment. It's not an easy thing to do, in a split decision when you don't have experience doing it. So I'm cautiously optimistic would be my best way I could describe it.
Muted myself. We're back. Back when good call, popcorn
I'm
cooking on
sure that
that
was the
one.
best 30 seconds you ever did on the pod. You're going to have to repeat it
No,
now.
I got it. So back when I keep coming back to this thought about Jaden and David Blau's offense, which is back when Lamar was getting ready to sign his contract, because I think, like, for better or for worse, if you had to comp at a super macro view what Jaden is capable of, it's probably Lamar. Right? As just he could kill you with his legs at any point. I think Jaden's better from the pocket. The numbers show that Jaden's better from the pocket. The tape shows that Jaden's better from the pocket. But that's not the point here. He can kill you with his legs at any point, and he can pick you apart if you overcommit to stopping his legs, right? So I think when there was talk about Lamar going to Detroit, like that was one of the top rumored destinations, I just kept thinking, man, with Ben Johnson's offense, if they had a quarterback that can move. And I'm pretty heavily invested in the Lions in my dynasty fantasy football league. So I watch them a lot. They're one of my favorite teams to watch. I actually really like the Lions. And so I was watching them, especially in like the peak Ben Johnson era, almost every weekend, thanks to Sunday Ticket. Um, and I just kept thinking to myself, if Goff could move, this offense would be unstoppable. It would be unstoppable if you could, when your quarterback, if there's so much, if he's playing with his back to the defense, under center, turns around, hands the ball off. Now imagine if after he hands that ball off, when he comes up on the bootleg, he has the option to take off for 25 yards. That is terrifying. And I think we haven't really seen. They moved Lamar more under center with getting Henry there in Baltimore, but Monken's offense was very much collegey, a lot of shotgun. So I think overall, like if we can see Jaden thrive under center, like a old Aaron Rodgers style, you're looking at like wow. Like the ceiling for this could be something we haven't seen in pro football. I don't know
Yeah.
how high the floor is. I hope the floor is high enough. But I don't know how high the floor is, but not because of Jaden as much as because of Blau. You can carry a guy's clipboard for a long time and be really smart. What does he do in the game, in the moment, when
Yeah.
you're under the gun? It's two different games, right? You can be on the driving range taking a lesson, being told what to do, and pipe it, make one tweak on your own, hit the ball great, keep going, and then you get out on the course and all of a sudden it's high right all day. I know that's never happened to you, Pop, but that's it's a thing that happens.
Well,
But
yeah, and I think the thing is, and by the way, I can't believe we're going two pods without saying this. I got to meet Durante Jones at a Bishop McNamara reunion.
super cool.
Well, I was actually not a reunion. It was a kickoff to March Madness. We did that at a bar downtown in National Harbor, and he was there. So we're co-alums to Bishop McNamara. So, but I guess the tie-in there is that on defense, you've got Dan Quinn, who's called defenses, who can mentor Durante Jones, who can work together on that. You don't have that on offense, right? It's David Blau, although there definitely are guys on staff that have experience calling plays and have done it before. I think that's a concern for sure. Jay Gruden was on with John Kine. It was a long, interview with him. It was an entertaining podcast, and he just said he thinks it's really going to feed into Jaden's strengths. The ability to just, run the option plays from under center. He said running backs really like the vision under center gives them. And I guess the good news is David Blau also was part of Cliff's staff the last 2 years. So if he needs to adjust to more of what Jaden's comfortable with as the season goes on, he can make that adjustment, right? And so I think there's optionality, which I know is a word you like and Adam Peters like, to what they can do, right? I don't know that it's going to be 100% all in to the Detroit offense, right? I think there's going to be some wrinkles of other stuff that Jaden likes to do and maybe has done really well the last couple of years. So cautiously optimistic about
I mean, I think it's going to be all in on the Ben Johnson offense. I disagree. I think we're going to go completely away from the Cliff thing because dude got demoted. He didn't go be OC somewhere else. He didn't go be head coach somewhere else. He was let go and he was demoted to go work on McVay's staff to go
that. Learn.
change his ways and learn in
Yeah.
so many ways. And I kept bringing up, I brought it up when we hired him. I kept bringing it up when things would sputter. That one way ticket to Thailand, I just couldn't get it out of my head. And it manifested itself by the end of his time here. So I think everybody is morbidly aware of that. And I think the worst thing Blau could do is try and keep this as cliffy as possible. And I think the other good piece of news is Jaden is not going to go into the season unfamiliar with the offense. He may go into the season lacking game reps in the offense, and that will matter for a certain degree. But can I remind you what Jaden Daniels looked like with two NFL games under his belt in Cliff Kingsbury's offense against Cincinnati on Monday night, setting the NFL record for completion percentage in a game? Can I remind you what Jaden Daniels looked like in 3 games of NFL experience in Cliff Kingsbury's offense? Running all over Cleveland against a really good defense who Jim Schwartz can't lose to rookie quarterbacks. Jim Schwartz is 8-1 or 8-0 versus rookie quarterbacks. Well, now he's 8-1 versus rookie quarterbacks, and the rookie that beat him was Jane Daniels, who hung 40 points on him before the fourth quarter and got benched. So I think that what I don't worry about at all is Jaden going to be ready in week 1 to go in this offense. I worry about physically, can Jaden stay healthy? And I worry about is Blau's game flow, play calling, ability to stay cool when things don't go right. Because that's sometimes with these like wonderkins, like brilliant minds, when everything's going right, they look unstoppable. But can they change in the moment? Do they know what the next chess move is? That's what I worry about.
Yeah, I remember when McVay was first started calling plays, under Jay Gruden. And he he talked about. I remember there was a mic. He was mic'd up. Sorry,
Yeah.
he was mic'd up on the sideline talking to Kirk Cousins, and they were just talking over something. And McVay said to Cousins, "Hey, dude, I'm learning too. Like I'm learning too, right? So yeah, I know I got that wrong, but I'm going to fix it." So there's going to be
Yep.
moments like that, right? There's going to be moments where there's going to be some of that, and I just hope that there's a strong enough mentor on the staff, that can be there for David Blau to kind of help him through that thing. Because in that case, you had Jay Gruden, who was head coach, who was calling plays, he was providing a lot of oversight. In this case, you hope you have something like that, but I'm always going to be confident in 5. What'd you think of just a quick derailing here because we got one more quick topic to go? But what'd you think of the flag football stuff? I've been dying to ask you about that.
Glad it's over. I'm glad it's over. I mean, overall,
Uh,
I just like, I'm not going to, I just decided I wasn't going to get too worked up about it.
Same.
He's playing flag football. He's also out there running full speed and cutting and running routes, and guys are diving and guys trip and fall and accidents happen. I don't know that he's at any more risk than he is if he's just working out or during a practice, but I know the risk of Jaden getting hurt sitting on his couch is 0. So I don't I'm just glad it's over. Glad it's over. That was the stance I took on it when I heard about it. I just said,
Yeah,
I'm
same.
not gonna I'm not gonna watch it. I'm not gonna listen to the discourse about it. I'm just gonna wait until the whole thing is over, and then I'm just gonna exhale. And so I'm glad it's over and everybody's okay and nobody's hurt and we can get on moving forward. And
I
the
did
couple
pick
of
on a
highlights
few of
I
those
saw.
highlights of him juking guys and throwing dimes downfield, though. I was a little
Oh, I
excited
mean,
about that.
you could pull up the hour-long compilation of the greatest rookie season of all time if you want those highlights. He's just
That's a, that's a fair point.
like we know what he could do. Like, and why do we care about seeing him do it against a bunch of dudes? Why we've seen him do it against Micah Parsons. Like, it's way that's way more impressive to me. But
Yeah, yeah.
I think the whole flag football thing is so weak. But that's neither here nor there. No disrespect to the future Olympians, or however that ends up working out. But going into it, last topic. We'll end it on a little fun topic here, something that will make for a good couple of shorts. Commanders have revealed new uniforms will be dropping on April 15th. I just want to quickly say that social media team is elite.
They're good.
Their video for unveiling the unveiling is better than most people's unveiling videos. Like, they're like, here, it's coming, get
Yeah, they are
excited.
good.
They're great. So I had a good time watching that. Let's speculate, man. Let's have some fun. This is usually not my favorite thing to do, but it's the middle of March. We got
Yeah, we're
nothing to
not
talk
uni
about.
guys.
Let's do it.
We're not uniform guys. I mean, I
We
think
are
just shout
clicks,
out,
guys.
I do think the Commanders social media team and media team in general is one of the best. I don't know. I don't watch the other teams, but I was wondering that the other day, just the guys that they have on there, Paulson, Smoot, Santana. I love listening to those podcasts and watching them. I think they just do an amazing job. And I was thinking to myself, I wonder what other teams are like. I think they're missing though a father son fan podcast. I think there's something key that they're missing with that social media team. We've tried to reach out.
I think
We're
so.
available. We're available.
I think so.
We come at a reasonable price. I don't want to say we come cheap. We come at a reasonable price. But anyway, we're not
No, we don't.
shameless plug,
We come at a competitive price.
but reasonable to start until we become big
Competitive.
stars. One
Competitive.
year deal. We'll do the Adam Peters 1 year prove it deal.
I'll do a
All
prove
right,
it deal.
prove
I'll
it
do a
deal.
prove
There
it
you
deal,
go.
but then I'm sitting out the whole summer.
All right, we got it. I'm gonna make a short and send that over to those guys and see if they'll take on it. But yeah, on the
Um,
uniforms, I got a prediction on the uniforms. I've been gathering information. Again, we're not uniform guys. They didn't touch them. I'd be
yeah,
totally
but
fine.
let's have fun for a little
But
bit.
let's have some fun with it. I mean, it is kind of cool. I do think that Josh Harris has been building towards, hey, how do we make that link to the present and continue to make a strong link to the past? So here's what I think it's going to be. Here's my prediction, gathering all the information that's out there. I think you're going to get, they already teased the white unis as the alternate last year. I think that's going to be our white uniform, right? The Super Bowl era, I think it's going to be, it's going to be W on the helmet, not a spear on the main helmet. And I think that's going to be the white. The burgundy will be the same thing, except it'll be burgundy, right? They'll go back to the Super Bowl era look. Maybe they'll crisp it up a little bit, but I think it's going to be with the W on the helmet. Hey, I don't. We'll talk about that in a minute. A lot of hate for that W logo. You know, we'll talk about what we think about that, but I think that's going to be the main white home and away jerseys, right? White and burgundy jerseys. I think the black is going to get an update, right? I think we're pretty much the current black unis. We're kind of fans, right? But I think the black unis are going to get an update, and I think they're going to look a lot like the white and the burgundies. I think they're going to have similar trim. I think they're going to be black with the stripes down the middle and the W on the side, but I think it's just going to be black. I think it's going to look a lot like the white and the burgundies. Trim wise and everything is just going to be in all black. So that's my prediction there. And I think the one that's going to be get the fans most excited is I do think the alternate jersey, they're going to go back to that throwback with the spear on the helmet and the spear on the shoulder pad and that darker burgundy. I think that is going to be, and maybe that, depending on how that goes over and how that's accepted, similar to what they did with the white jerseys last year, I think that is going to be the lead in towards maybe a possible more permanent spear on the helmet, as the main helmet approach, because they've been putting the spear more into things. If you look at the website for the Commanders, that spear logo as part of like Commanders, Warriors type of thing has been showing up more and more. So I think that's my prediction for the four jerseys, and maybe we'll do a put flash some of the what do you call it, the mock-ups of the jerseys that show that, but that's my prediction. What do you think, and what's your reaction?
I I like it. I like where you're going there. So I think just to recap really quick, I think you're saying that you think they're going to change the burgundies to be what the whites are, what the
Yes,
alternate whites were last year. So the
Super
Super
Bowl
Bowl
era.
era, that's what they're calling them,
Right.
right? So you think we're going to get a Super Bowl era burgundy? You think they'll update the
Same helmet.
black to match the Super Bowl era?
Yep.
And then you think we're also going to get an alternate that's going to be the spear.
Yes.
Okay. That
On
would
the
be
shoulder pad and
amazing.
helmet. Yeah.
I think that might be a little greedy, but that would be amazing. I think that might be a little more than they're going to do all in one season. I don't know I think that's where we're headed. I think that's the end destination. But I think realistically, what we're most likely to get is I think they are going to do a the new unveiling is going to be that the old white jerseys or
Mm-hmm.
the Super Bowl era white jerseys are now our main white jersey,
Yep.
and the new alternate is going to be a Super Bowl era burgundy jersey. And then next year, that burgundy jersey will become our main burgundy jersey. That's what I think. Now, I'm
Well, they
going to
had
be,
four last year. They had four last year,
yeah, I
right?
guess they did. I guess
They
they
had
did.
the Commanders burgundy, the Commanders white. They had the blacks, and then they had the Super Bowl era whites.
I guess they did. I am going to be greedy and I want the 1970s throwbacks, which are not going to come back. It's not going to happen. But that's what I want. I want the ones that had like the 4 or 5 stripes on the sleeve. Those are
Right.
my favorite. Those are my favorite. Those whites with the four. Back
What
when
would
they
the
had the
helmet
yellow,
be?
when they had the yellow helmet with the R on it. I
What
don't
would
know
you
if
do?
they'll
Put
go.
a W on it?
I hate that W. If I'm doing whatever I want, I would just take that W and go. I
So
can't
what
say
would
what
the
I would do
logo
with it.
look?
I
What
guess.
would the logo be? What would the core logo be if you had
Oh,
your druthers?
the spear logo is elite.
I think
The
that's
spear
where they're
logo
headed.
would be
I just don't think
unreal.
they're going to take that leap 100% there. That's why I
Yeah.
think the alternate jersey is going to be what I explained. I feel pretty confident. The only thing I'm not confident about my prediction is the blacks.
Another one that I like.
The blacks could go in a completely different direction that I'm not aware of. I'm just sort of guessing there, you know, that it'll be just similar look, feel as the whites and the burgundies, the Super Bowl era whites and burgundies,
Yeah.
unis. But I'm pretty confident with the first three. I'm pretty confident with the fact that their primary jerseys, home and away, are going to be the Super Bowl era white and burgundy. But the only difference would be stripes down the middle, keep the W logo, and then the dark burgundy spear approach for and they might keep the gold pants around to mix things up here and
Yeah.
there too. But
Another greedy request. I would love a white helmet. I love that Green Bay Packers when they do the all white with the white helmet. That is so clean. And I think the Green Bay Packers uniforms in silhouette are similar enough to our white uniforms, our Super Bowl era white uniforms. I think if we did that with a white helmet that just had one clean, no stripes, just one spear on it, or maybe you do the 3 stripes down the middle, one spear on the side, white helmet. Woo, for an all white night, that would be crispy. I'd be all over that. I would love that, but that's not going to happen. I think your prediction pop is the end goal. I don't know how many steps towards that end goal we're going to take with this rebrand, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm ready to just be done with all of it. I'm ready to just get to the point where we have the uniforms and we know what the uniforms are. We know what the logo is. We know what the name is. Thank God that discussion's over.
It ain't ever going to be over.
Well, for a very small, select few that choose to spend their life on that, God bless you.
Yeah.
But thank God that name's over. That discussion's over. And you know, I think overall the uniforms they're gonna be fun. We'll see. We'll see what we get at the end of the day. But yeah, if you told me I could do whatever I want, I'd bring back those 1970s alternates. I love those. Those were my
But did
favorite
you
growing
explain
up.
what the helmet would be? What would be the yellow helmet with what logo on it?
I'm not caught up on the helmet. I just want that jersey. The helmet can be
Okay.
whatever they want. But the jersey is what I want. I want that white
Okay.
jersey with the stripes on the side. That is clean. That is my
Well, you said a
favorite
white. You said a white helmet.
Commander's
So
look.
some sort
Sure,
of
bring
white
it.
helmet.
Do a white helmet with the spear and make that your all white knight. That would be sick. Why not?
That would be
Um,
pretty cool.
but I think it's gonna. I'm like I pulled up Washington uniforms throughout the years. I've been looking at different examples, trying to find anything else I like. I also like the dark burgundy with the gold numbers. That was a fun one. Um, but we'll see. We'll see where they go. I think, like you said, I think the safe route is they just reveal Super Bowl era burgundies, and then I think the end goal is getting that spear involved as some
No,
kind
I
of
think the
logo.
spare comes out as the alternate. I'm
Okay.
confident in that prediction.
I'd buy one on release. I would buy one right away.
I think it comes
So
out as the alternate. I'm
that
confident.
would be awesome. Well, anyways, Pop, let's wrap this thing up. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right. I will let's call it, man. Let's call it
We'll do
without
draft
further
stuff.
ado.
We'll do draft stuff in the next couple of weeks. We didn't want to bury the
Right.
lead on that. We feel like that deserves its own primary focus. So we'll get to that in one of our next couple of pods. We'd like to have a guest on soon too. So
Yeah, it's all just rumors right now. We don't have any all that is just swirling. So we'll let that swirl for a little bit longer as
yeah,
things settle. But
teaser.
let's wrap this up. Without further ado, I've been Dom.
This is Pop.
Thanks for another great week, everybody, and hail to the Commanders.
Yeah.